Elijah, you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just making sure. We got starting a new unit, so you'll need to follow along, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So just a reminder here about attendance and those especially that are working from home. Remember, you need to be not only on the Google Meet, but you need to submit the day's work to be counted present. We always start with the bell ringer. So if you go into Canvas and either click modules or today's activity from the biology page, let me get in student view so it'll look more like yours. We're in week 7 and we're on Wednesday. But yesterday I had some notes up. We're going to back up and work on those notes. We didn't get to them in class. So we're going to start here in 2-17. And all you're going to do here is I want to know what you might already know about photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So I'm wanting you to try to come up with 3 things. So if you happen to know something, you can shout it out and we will type it together. Anybody have any idea about photosynthesis?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you know about it? Do you know what organism does it?
No, ma'am.
Oh, chloroplast. So the organelle that so I'm just going to put photosynthesis. All right, it's going to occur in chloroplast. That is an organelle in what type of cell? Plant or animal? Plant. All right, it occurs, I guess it should be S. Occurs in chloroplast. In plant cells. Does anybody know the purpose of photosynthesis? What does photosynthesis do?
It provides food for the plant.
All right, it makes food. Anybody know what that food is called? Glucose or sugar. So you can put that if you want. But we got 3 things there. Occurs in chloroplast, in plant cells, and it makes food. It's a process that makes food. All right, what about cellular respiration? This is not breathing. It's not respiration. It's cellular respiration. What organelle does it occur in? You said it earlier, Amber. Mitochondria. It's in both plant and animal cells. And what is its purpose?
Make energy.
To make energy. So it breaks down the food for energy, but I'm going to say makes energy. And this is what our whole unit is going to be about. So make sure that you type in these for the bell ringer. It gets you 6 extra credit points for completing that. Leave it there just another second or so. And then we're going to be talk about the that Monica is out. And then we're going to be talking about the energy that mitochondria is going to get out first. We need to understand about that energy molecule. So that's what we're going to take some notes on today. And there's a little question sheet after we do the notes that we'll fill in. I think I also have a video about it that you need to watch as well. Those online, you're good?
Yes, ma'am.
Maya, you good?
Yeah.
Alex?
Yeah, I'm good.
Need another minute, Alex.
No, I'm good.
How about that up there? One minute.
All right, I'm gonna submit. All right, normally we could click on next, but I'm gonna go back here because I had the notes in under yesterday's date, and we didn't get to it. So if, you didn't take the test yesterday, I emailed out the code for it, and there is the link for the test. Remember, they count the most towards your grade, so if you're not gonna do something, or if you're only gonna do certain things, certain assignments, tests are a good one to do. ATP notes is where we're gonna go. Notice I did change the due date to today, but I left it up under yesterday's date. So if you're online, you're going to fill in as we go. And internet here is being a little slow, so underneath here should pop up a Cami with the notes. And what I've made suggestions to some of my online folks, if you can join the Google Meet on your phone, then you can use that to, as viewing the notes and stuff, and then type on your computer. Otherwise, you either have to go through this by on your own while I'm talking about it to type in the notes, or try to pull the two tabs side by side, which I know on your screen can get kind of small. So if there's a way to utilize your phone, for like Google Meet, the Google Meet part, it might be beneficial. I'm gonna make this big so it's easier to see. All right, we're going to be talking about adenosine triphosphate. So that's a hard word to try to say, but it's shorthand or the shorthand version is ATP. And so that's what we're going to be looking at in our notes. So a little bit of background about ATP is our body has to have energy to run our cells. So our cells have to have energy. We cannot use food directly for energy. The food has to be broken down. That's why we have the digestive system to break that food down into smaller and smaller particles to get it into the glucose molecule or the triglyceride molecule so that it can be broken down, and ATP can be extracted out of that so that our bodies can use that. And ATP is just the energy that is in the chemical bonds in certain molecules. And so to release this energy, bonds have to be broken. And once the ATP is formed, there's a bond that's going to be broken within that molecule to get that energy. And then it's going to be reused. That molecule can be reused, put back together, and so forth. So ATP is just going to carry energy. It's not really a storage. It's going to be in an ATP form for a very short amount of time. And it's just carrying that energy to whatever the cell's function is at that time. And so it is the molecule that powers our body. So there were a few blanks in that. Hopefully everybody's got those blanks. All right, so here's the structure. You may see it, and down at the bottom of your note on that page, that first page, there's this picture here. You may want to label parts of it. It'll come in handy later. You have a nitrogen base. We call it adenine. You have a sugar, which is ribose, and you have 3 phosphate groups that are held together with high energy bonds. And so this is the structure for adenosine triphosphate, ATP. So in this picture, This little section here that has the green dots, that is your adenine. Now ribose should have had some blue here. It's a pentagon shape. That's your sugar. And then these three right here are your phosphate groups. Let's see if it labels it. So adenine, ribose, and phosphates. You need to know those three parts. A lot of time, this will be just this outer, just that outer part will be highlighted. This part that sticks out and these parts here that stick out may not be in an image, but it's a general image like this: adenine, ribose, phosphates. All right, there is something called an ATP-ADP cycle, and this is how ATP is cycled. And so a lot of energy is going to be in the bond between the last two phosphates. So in this bond right here, there's a lot of energy. So that energy is going to be released when that bond is broken and that phosphate is removed. And that becomes ADP, adenosine diphosphate, di meaning two. And then what happens is this stays in the cell, and then when it goes through and the cell needs energy, it is then, a phosphate is added to it to make the ATP again. And so this is a cycle. So it's just the removing and adding of a phosphate group, and it happens over and over and over. See if I'm in there. So in that diagram, you're going to fill in ATP here. Phosphate is removed here. This is energy is released in that little starburst. ADP, you've got a phosphate added, and energy is added from broken down food. So make sure you fill in that little chart. And so a lot of times we'll use a scenario of a rechargeable battery in this to represent ATP. So ATP would be the battery fully charged. ADP would be the battery needing to be charged. So this is sort of the energy currency of living things. So hopefully, move on. So kind of to sum this up, ATP is broken down. It releases energy for the cell to use and becomes an ADP and a free phosphate. This should be an arrow here in this box. It just didn't transfer very well. Because energy is given off, this is going to be, hold on. Why didn't you give me my word? Exothermic reaction. So energy is given off. Exo means release. Heat, usually in the form of heat. Exothermic reaction. So to make ATP, cells from the food that we've eaten that's been broken down, that energy that was in that food is then used to join an ADP and a phosphate. And so where this little box is should have been an arrow. Energy is being taken in. So this is, and it's down here, endothermic reaction. And ATP is this whole process of making ATP is what cellular respiration does, and we're going to be covering that after we look at photosynthesis. But you needed to have kind of an idea of what ATP is before we can move on. Now, the last part, ultimately, all our energy comes from the sun. As we're going to learn from when we get into photosynthesis, where plants take the sun's energy and convert it into foods. When we use plant-based products, or we eat animals that have eaten plants, and so the most commonly formed molecule that's broken down for ATP is carbohydrates. That's what's going to give you your quick energy, your pastas, your breads. From glucose, we can get about 36 ATP molecules, so it's a lot. Now, each simple sugar molecule can be broken down at some point in this cycle for ATP, but glucose gives us the most. So storing it, it's about 4 calories per milligram. Lipids will be broken down after your carbohydrates, so after your carbs are broken down, then lipids or fats can be broken down, and we can get, it's about 9 kilocalories per milligram from fats, so it has more energy, but it takes a little longer to break them down. And then proteins are sort of the last thing that will be broken down for energy. And it also stores about 4 calories per milligram. So you just need to know that carbohydrates are broken first, then any lipids or fats and proteins. Now, if you eat a high carbohydrate diet, your body's not going to use all those carbs you've eaten. And so your body is going to store those carbs in your nice little fat cells or in your liver. And so if you're not burning the amount that you are eating in carbohydrates, then your body's going to store it for later. And so the same with fats. If your body, if you're eating a high fat intake, your body can't use it all. It's going to store it. And it generally is stored in the fat tissue that's right below the skin. So that's an overview of ATP. So if you did your notes along with us, you need to go ahead and submit those. This is one way to get easy 20 points towards your grade. If you go to the next button at the bottom here, there's a video. Well, would have been a video, but I forgot we didn't have it there.
No, it's a video up there.
Yeah. All right, so here's a video. And if you haven't done these before, what it does is it's going to pop up a video, and it's not going to, I don't think it's going to show here because I'm in student mode. But you watch the video, you answer the questions as you go through. We're going to move past that right now. We're going to look at this first. So click on next. And then you're going to do the video on your own once we've looked at the ATP practice. So if you'll have the ATP practice up, I'm going to try one more time. I tried this earlier and it didn't work. I'm going to go in and try to get this pulled up so I can write up here. And based on what we talked about in our notes, we're going to try to answer these 10 questions here. I got this far a while ago and it's stuck. Oh, it's going to let me go. Well, I may get a copy up. All righty then. We'll notice it. Okay, look at number 1. You have, and I'm gonna try to draw this, a 6-sided figure with a 5-sided figure. You have a 5-sided figure and 3 circles. The directions say to draw bonds to connect the following picture in order to show an ATP model and label the 3 parts. Place a star on the bond that stores the most energy. So I'm going to get a different color. All right, so I know that it's going to connect from here somewhere to here. I don't care how you draw it. It doesn't matter if you get it exact how it connects, but those 2 have to connect. This has to connect here, and then these connect. So in the Cami, you just get your drawing tool and do the best you can with your finger and your mouse. If you happen to have a USB mouse that you can plug into your Chromebook, that really helps some with the maneuvering some of these in Cami. All right, then it says the label. So we remember that this here is our adenosine. I want to spell it right. This is our sugar, which is ribose. And then these are our phosphate groups. Each circle is a phosphate group. And then it says to put a star between where the most. So the first, second, and third. It's between the last 2 phosphate groups where most of the energy is. So if you are following along and we're going through this together, you need to have it filled in so that you can get your points for this. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next one. You got this, Amber? We'll go to the next slide. So number 2, what happens when the 3rd phosphate is removed from the ATP? What happens?
Wait, I gotta look back on the notes.
So when this
releases
bond,
energy,
okay, and it's going to release energy that was stored in the bond. So energy stored in the bond will be released. Number 3 says, when a 3rd phosphate group is removed, when would it be removed? So at what point would that need to be removed?
the circles are the 3rd phosphate.
When would the 3rd phosphate need to be removed, that 3rd circle?
When it 3rd phosphate.
So if it's releasing energy, when would we need that to happen?
When it gets to like at least the 1st. And
Well, think about if I'm just breathing, am I using energy?
yeah.
Yes. So are my cells working?
Yeah.
Yes. If they're working, they need
To just push it out.
what to work?
Energy.
Energy.
ATP.
So for your cells to do their job, they need the energy, which comes from that 3rd phosphate being removed. So when cells need energy to function, blinking your eyes, moving your eyes, walking, running, writing, typing, any movement, anything that your body needs to do that uses energy, then that third phosphate would need to be removed. So the more motion your body goes through, the more energy it needs for the cells to do their job. Number 4, in what process is ATP produced? What process are we going to study that makes ATP? I said we would get to it later. We had it in the bell ringer. What were the 2 things we had in the bell ringer? We had photosynthesis and what was the second thing?
Cellular respiration.
Cellular respiration. Which one makes energy?
Cellular respiration.
Cellular respiration. What organelle, number 5, does this happen in? Cellular respiration happens in what organelle, what cell part? Starts with an M.
Mitochondria.
Mitochondria. Just to give you an idea, remember, look for an oval with a squiggly line like that. That's the mitochondria. It looks like a loaf of French bread. All right, to make an ATP, what 2 things have to come together?
ADP and phosphates.
ADP plus a phosphate group. All right. 7, where does the energy come from to attach that third phosphate, to make these join? Where does that energy come from?
Are you talking about a picture?
Just in us. How does it, and it may have been in the picture in the notes, in that little star. It comes from what? How do we get energy? Food.
Carbs.
So food eaten. What macromolecule will your body break down first? And you just said it. Your carbs, carbohydrates. What's second?
Lipids.
Lipids. And last, proteins. So pretty much, and I'm going to use an example, if you are anorexic and you choose not to eat, your body will take care of all the carbohydrates that's in it, and will have broken down the lipids, and then it starts breaking down your muscles, and then it'll start breaking down other organs, and it basically, you end up killing yourself if you continue on that path. Kind of the same thing if you're bulimic. You make yourself throw up to not have the calories. It's going to do the same thing because you're not getting the energy, and eventually you're going to not only be losing muscle mass, you do major damage to your esophagus and stomach when you go through those processes. But you don't want proteins to be broken down because everything in your body is made up of proteins. So you're basically, when you get to that point, you're slowly yourself. Number 9, In the ATP, ADP cycle, what is being recycled over and over again? So what is being recycled?
ATP,
Um,
ADP, not ADP, but
hold on. I would say it is
wait,
ADP
ADP,
and the phosphate. And then what is not being recycled? And I would say the ATP for that one, because it's only there for that energy. All right, so if you did that with us, and you have that, it should be a 100, you can submit it. And then the remainder of class, you need to go back here. On your own, you're going to go to the previous. You're going to watch this video. And then if you haven't done the test from yesterday, you need to do that. Let's see, Monday, if you didn't do the work from Monday, you need to do that. Anything back here is all locked because you had to get it in by Friday. So if you're missing anything from Monday, Tuesday, and today, that's what you're going to do for the remainder of today's class. So we have the three, these things are done. You need to do the video,